Welcome, dear listener, and settle gently into your chair or bed. Allow the soft rhythm of your breath to ease tension from your shoulders. Tonight we will journey through centuries of forests, rivers, and hills, exploring the lives of the Celts. Imagine yourself stepping softly into a world where nature and craft blend seamlessly, where everyday life hums with subtle magic, and where the whispers of history are carried on the wind. The Celts were not a single people, but a collection of tribes and communities spread across Europe. From the rolling green hills of Ireland to the dense forests of Gaul, they shared language, customs, and a distinctive artistic style, even as each tribe maintained its unique identity. We do not meet the Celts through kings and battles alone, though there were many, but through the daily rhythms of life. The clang of a smith's hammer, the flicker of hearth fires in wooden homes, the quiet reverence for the spirits of rivers and trees. Their story begins around 1200 BCE, during the Late Bronze Age in Central Europe. Archaeologists call the first identifiable Celtic culture the Hallstatt, named for the salt mines in modern Austria where so many artifacts were found. As we drift through the centuries, you can picture longhouses stretching along fertile river valleys, with families tending crops, weaving wool, and shaping iron into tools and weapons. The scent of wood smoke mingles with that of fresh bread and livestock, painting an intimate portrait of Celtic life. By around 500 BCE, the Latine culture emerges, a more refined and widely dispersed phase, recognizable by its intricate metalwork and curvilinear designs. Imagine smooth, swirling patterns etched into bronze, gold, and iron, decorating torques, neck rings that signal wealth or status. Each pattern seems to echo the flow of rivers or the curl of a fern, reminding us of the Celts' intimate relationship with the natural world. Language was a powerful connector among Celtic peoples. They spoke early forms of what we now call the Celtic languages, divided broadly into Goidelic and Brythonic branches. These languages carried stories, genealogies, and songs, preserving the memory of heroes and gods, and transmitting cultural values across generations. We can picture bards traveling from village to village, their voices rising in melodic chants, recounting tales of gods, warriors, and enchanted forests, as listeners lean close to catch every word. Their spirituality was intertwined with their surroundings. Sacred groves, rivers, and springs were sites of ritual. Druids, priests, philosophers, and advisors oversaw ceremonies, mediated disputes, and maintained oral knowledge. They understood the cycles of the moon, the turn of the seasons, and the balance of nature. You might imagine a morning mist rolling over a hill, a druid standing quietly among ancient oaks, offering libations to unseen spirits, connecting their people to the unseen threads of the world. Celtic art, daily life, and spiritual practice all reveal a people deeply aware of beauty and balance. Homes were constructed from timber, wattle, and daub, roofs thatched with reeds. Animals provided food, clothing, and companionship. Children learned from their elders, practicing skills in metalworking, weaving, or storytelling. Life was rhythmic, cyclical, in harmony with the land. As we prepare to follow the Celts across centuries, let your thoughts drift like smoke over the hills, absorbing the subtle patterns of their lives. There is no rush, no urgency, only the gentle unfolding of time, the quiet murmur of rivers, and the soft footfalls of history beneath your mind's eye. In this calm and patient way, we begin our exploration of the Celtic world. The story of the Celts begins in the heart of Europe, in the fertile valleys and highlands that stretch from the Danube River to the Rhine. Imagine a landscape dotted with forests, wetlands, and open meadows, where families live in scattered villages. Around 1200 BCE, during the Late Bronze Age, these early communities start to distinguish themselves through metalwork, trade, and shared cultural markers. Archaeologists studying Hallstatt sites reveal longhouses built of timber with thatched roofs, often arranged around central open spaces for gatherings and livestock. Fireplaces in each home provide warmth and a place for cooking, the aroma of barley bread mingling with the scent of burning wood. Villagers cultivate wheat, barley, and rye, while tending to pigs, cattle, and goats. In the early mornings, dew sparkles on the fields as children help their elders, carrying water from nearby streams or collecting firewood. Salt becomes a central commodity, harvested from rich deposits in the region. It is both a preservative and a marker of wealth, traded with distant settlements. These economic networks allow the Celts to acquire amber from the Baltic, tin from Cornwall, and gold from local rivers. In this way, their communities are never entirely isolated but part of a growing web of interaction and exchange. Tools of bronze and iron enable the Celts to transform their environment. Sickle blades cut grain efficiently, while plowshares turn the soil. Artisans forge weapons and personal adornments, shaping swords, shields, and bracelets with care. Each item carries both utility and beauty, reflecting a culture in which function and artistry are inseparable. The Hallstatt elite, often buried in tumuli, large earthen mounds, leave behind finely crafted grave goods, signaling social hierarchies and spiritual beliefs. By 800 BCE, Celtic populations begin to expand along river valleys and through mountain passes. Villages evolve into larger settlements, sometimes fortified with ditches or palisades. This expansion is gradual and deliberate, a rhythm that mirrors the cycles of nature. In these communities, families gather around hearths, share meals, and teach younger generations the skills and stories that define their culture. Language is a key marker of identity. The Proto-Celtic language spreads across these territories, forming the roots of what will later become the diverse Celtic languages. Oral tradition thrives. Stories of heroes, gods, and epic journeys are recited at festivals and gatherings, accompanied by music from simple instruments like lyres and flutes. These narratives carry values of bravery, wisdom, and respect for the natural and supernatural worlds. Religious practice is deeply embedded in daily life. Natural features, springs, rivers, groves, are considered sacred. Early druids oversee ceremonies, offering guidance to their communities and interpreting omens. We can imagine the hush of a woodland clearing at dawn, a druid lifting a bronze bowl, water shimmering in the soft light, and the villagers observing with reverent silence. Through such rituals, communities maintain harmony with both their environment and each other. As the centuries pass, Hallstatt communities give way to the Latine culture, around 500 BCE. This transition marks a refinement in art, social organization, and trade networks. Latine artifacts are distinguished by intricate curvilinear motifs, swirls, spirals, and plant-like patterns, found on jewelry, weapons, and everyday objects. These designs seem to echo natural forms, creating a visual language that celebrates both life and the environment. Settlements become more complex, with clearly defined spaces for workshops, homes, and communal gatherings. Defensive structures, often earthen ramparts topped with wooden palisades, protect these growing communities from occasional raiders. But within these walls, life is vibrant. The rhythmic hammering of the smith's forge, the hum of weaving looms, the laughter of children running through village lanes. Trade and mobility flourish. Celtic merchants travel along rivers, exchanging goods and knowledge. They acquire exotic items, amber beads, Mediterranean wine, and metals, while also sharing their own craftsmanship. Artifacts found across Europe reveal a surprisingly interconnected world, where ideas and styles travel as easily as objects. Daily life is punctuated by seasonal rituals. Festivals honor the changing year, marking sowing and harvest, birth and death. Feasts are held in roundhouses with communal songs and storytelling. Through these customs, Celtic communities anchor themselves in the passage of time, finding stability in cycles and patterns. As we drift through these early centuries, it is helpful to imagine the tactile sensations of life. The weight of an iron sickle in a hand calloused by labor, the warmth of a fire against a winter chill, the cool splash of river water during summer tasks. These ordinary moments create the texture of Celtic life, grounding their story in experiences both familiar and distant. Reflecting on the origins of the Celts, we see a people shaped by environment, technology, and imagination. They are not defined by conquest alone but by creativity, observation, and connection to the land. Let the softness of their world envelop your thoughts as we prepare to move into the expansion and migrations of the Celtic peoples, gently drifting along the river valleys and mountain passes they once traversed. By the 5th century BCE, the Celtic world is no longer confined to Central Europe. Tribes begin to move westward, southward, and northward, propelled by population growth, trade opportunities, and at times pressure from other peoples. Imagine a slow migration through forests and along rivers, where families, livestock, and carts laden with possessions journey into new lands. In Gaul, the Celts establish vibrant settlements, often near rivers such as the Seine, Loire, and Rhône. These settlements benefit from fertile soil, abundant forests, and access to trade routes. Villages grow into towns, with workshops producing fine metalwork, pottery, and textiles. Latin artistry flourishes as artisans create torques, fibulae, brooches, and intricately engraved weapons. Swirling patterns and natural motifs reflect both aesthetic sensibilities and spiritual symbolism. The British Isles see the arrival of Celtic peoples around the same period. Imagine crossing the channel in small wooden boats, the salt spray mingling with the anticipation of new lands. These early settlers adapt to coastal plains, river valleys, and upland regions, establishing farmsteads and hill forts. Hill forts serve both defensive and social functions, acting as gathering places for trade, rituals, and governance. They are often surrounded by ditches and wooden palisades, their silhouettes visible against the horizon as beacons of community life. Migration brings new interactions. Celtic tribes encounter the Mediterranean world through trade, learning from Greek and Etruscan artisans. They adopt and adapt techniques for metalworking, pottery, and coinage, blending them seamlessly with their own styles. This cultural exchange enriches the Celtic imagination, while retaining the distinctive aesthetic that links the diverse tribes across Europe. Daily life continues with remarkable continuity despite movement. Families cultivate grains, raise animals, and maintain households of timber and wattle. Smoke curls from hearths, weaving together the scent of cooked grains and burning wood. Children learn practical skills and storytelling, while adults engage in crafting, trading, and ritual. Life is demanding yet rhythmic, measured by the sun and the seasons. Celtic spirituality remains central. Sacred sites often accompany migration paths. Rivers, springs, and groves are respected and honored. Druids travel with communities, guiding them in ritual and offering counsel. Seasonal festivals mark the cycles of sowing, growth, and harvest. Each ceremony is an opportunity to affirm connection to the land, the community, and the unseen forces that shape existence. Trade networks expand alongside migration. Amber from the Baltic, tin from Cornwall, and wine from the Mediterranean traverse long distances, creating a shared material culture. Coins begin to appear, often imitating Greek designs, yet stamped with Celtic symbols. The movement of goods parallels the movement of ideas, and the Celtic world becomes a web of interconnected settlements stretching from Iberia to Central Europe and beyond. Military organization adapts to the needs of migration and settlement. While daily life is peaceful, tribes maintain skilled warriors trained in the use of long swords, spears, and shields. Conflict is not constant, but when it arises, it is decisive. Hill forts serve as defensive centers, while warriors act as both protectors and enforcers of social order. Tales of heroes and battles circulate in oral tradition, teaching courage, strategy, and honor to the next generation. As we drift through these centuries of movement, visualize the landscape. Dense forests opening onto river plains, hills rising in gentle waves, the occasional hill fort perched on a promontory. Travelers move at a deliberate pace, aware of the land's gifts and dangers. Herds graze while blacksmiths shape iron for tools and weapons, and bards compose songs celebrating journeys and new beginnings. The Celtic migrations leave enduring traces in language, art, and settlement patterns. Brythonic and Goidelic branches of the Celtic language take root in Britain and Ireland, while continental Celtic dialects persist in Gaul and Iberia. Artifacts, torques, shields, and decorated vessels serve as visual markers of identity recognizable across great distances. As we reflect on this period of expansion, allow your mind to drift gently through the forests and rivers of migrating tribes. Feel the quiet rhythm of movement, the hum of life amidst change. The Celts story is one of adaptability, connection, and creativity, qualities that will carry them into encounters with the wider ancient world. Let this gentle awareness guide your mind toward calm and ease, preparing for the next chapter of Celtic history. As we drift further into the Celtic world, imagine stepping quietly into one of their vibrant settlements. The sun rises over rolling hills and mist hugs the river valleys. Birds begin their morning chorus while smoke spirals gently from the hearths of timber and wattle homes. Children stir, their voices mingling with the lowing of cattle and the rhythmic sounds of villagers preparing for the day. Life in Celtic society is a delicate balance of work, ritual, and communal connection. Celtic society is organized around tribal structures, each tribe led by a chieftain or king whose authority blends wisdom, courage, and ancestral lineage. Leadership is not merely inherited, it is affirmed through deeds, counsel, and the respect of warriors, craftsmen, and farmers alike. Chiefs often dwell in prominent hill forts or large homesteads, where they oversee gatherings, resolve disputes, and host feasts. Around these leaders, a complex network of warriors, druids, artisans, and farmers sustains the community. The warrior class occupies a special place in Celtic culture. Though not constantly engaged in battle, they train with discipline, mastering the sword, spear, and shield. Armor is practical yet ornate, often adorned with swirling lateen patterns that mirror the flow of rivers or the curves of leaves. Warriors act as protectors of the tribe, ceremonial participants, and exemplars of bravery. Oral traditions celebrate their feats, ensuring that acts of courage echo across generations. Even in peaceful times, the presence of the warrior reinforces social cohesion and readiness for potential conflict. The spiritual life of the Celts is deeply woven into daily existence. Druids serve as priests, judges, teachers, and astronomers. Their knowledge encompasses the cycles of the moon, the movement of stars, the rhythms of agriculture, and the unseen energies of the natural world. Imagine a druid standing quietly in a grove at dawn, water shimmering in a bronze bowl, leaves rustling with the morning breeze. Ceremonies honor rivers, springs, sacred trees, and animals, maintaining a delicate equilibrium between humans and the environment. Seasonal festivals structure Celtic life, creating a predictable rhythm that guides labor, leisure, and ritual. Samhain, marking the end of the harvest and the onset of winter, is a time for reflection, remembrance, and preparation. Imbolc signals the first stirrings of spring, a festival of renewal and hope. Beltane, welcoming the warmth of summer, celebrates fertility, fire, and the abundance of the land. Lugnasad, the harvest festival, honors Luff, the god associated with craft and skill. During these festivals, villages come alive with music, dance, storytelling, and communal feasts. The air vibrates with laughter, the hum of conversation, and the soft cadence of chants and songs. Art and craftsmanship are central to Celtic culture. Metalworking, woodworking, and textiles are not merely functional but expressive. Blacksmiths hammer iron and bronze into tools, weapons, and jewelry, while engravers inscribe swirling patterns that reflect natural forms and spiritual symbolism. Weavers produce colorful textiles, often dyed with plant-based pigments, and embroider intricate motifs onto garments. Potters shape clay into vessels adorned with geometric and curvilinear designs. Every object embodies a blend of utility, aesthetic sensibility, and cultural meaning. Celtic art is particularly notable for its attention to flowing, interconnected patterns. Spirals, triskels, and intertwined animals evoke movement, life, and the interconnectedness of all things. Torques, bracelets, and brooches display these designs in gold, bronze, or iron, serving as markers of status, skill, or ceremonial importance. Even everyday items, knives, bowls, and tools, bear decorative touches, reflecting a worldview in which beauty and function coexist seamlessly. Daily routines are intimate and tactile. Imagine a village woman drawing water from a river, her hands cool against the flowing current. She returns to the hearth, where bread is baking, milk is being churned into butter, and wool is being spun. Children play nearby, learning through observation and gentle guidance, absorbing knowledge of farming, crafting, and storytelling. Men may tend to fields, repair tools, or practice martial drills. The day unfolds with purpose yet retains a sense of calm rhythm, closely tied to the land and the seasons. Housing reflects both practicality and social values. Longhouses constructed from timber, wattle, and daub are divided into spaces for sleeping, cooking, and working. Thatched roofs shelter inhabitants from wind and rain, while central hearths provide warmth and a focal point for family life. Villages may cluster around rivers, fertile fields, or hill forts, facilitating trade, communication, and mutual defense. Some communities build larger structures for gatherings, ceremonies, or craft production. Food plays a central role in both daily life and social rituals. Grains, vegetables, and fruits are cultivated and preserved for year-round use. Meat from cattle, pigs, and sheep supplements the diet, often roasted over open fires. Fish is caught from rivers and streams, providing sustenance and occasional delicacies. Seasonal fruits, nuts, and honey enrich meals. Feasts mark special occasions, where shared food strengthens bonds and reinforces social hierarchies. These gatherings are accompanied by music, storytelling, and the gentle murmur of communal enjoyment. Education in Celtic society is largely oral and experiential. Knowledge is transmitted through apprenticeship, observation, and memory. Druids and bards teach philosophy, law, history, and poetry. Children practice skills patiently, learning to weave, forge, farm, or recite stories with precision. Storytelling is not merely entertainment. It is a repository of law, morality, and identity, linking generations across time. In these narratives, gods, heroes, and ancestors model virtues and cautionary lessons. Celtic medicine combines practical knowledge with spiritual insight. Herbal remedies, poultices, and ritualized healing are applied to treat illness or injury. Druids often oversee such treatments, blending empirical observation with invocations or blessings. This holistic approach reflects a worldview in which body, mind, and spirit are interconnected, and health is understood as harmony with natural and supernatural forces. Trade remains an important element of daily life and cultural connectivity. River routes and overland paths facilitate the movement of goods, ideas, and artisans. Amber, metals, textiles, and pottery circulate widely, creating a shared cultural framework. The presence of exotic materials signals status, skill, and cosmopolitan awareness. Markets and fairs allow for exchange, social interaction, and the reinforcement of tribal networks. Music permeates both private and public spaces. Simple instruments like lyres, flutes, drums, and horns accompany storytelling, ritual, and daily labor. Melodies echo across valleys, adding cadence to work and leisure. Bards, traveling between settlements, preserve collective memory, recounting history, genealogy, and heroic tales. Their words carry lessons, inspiration, and a sense of continuity, linking present generations to ancestors long past. Religion, art, and daily life intersect continuously. Sacred groves may house shrines, while rivers and springs host offerings. Objects crafted with care reflect spiritual and aesthetic sensibilities. Seasonal festivals punctuate the calendar, blending labor, worship, and celebration. Life flows in cycles, and each moment, however ordinary, carries meaning, grounded in the rhythm of nature and the community. As the sun sets over the Celtic landscape, imagine the soft glow of fires illuminating villages, the sound of animals settling for the night, and the hush of the wind through trees. Villagers recount stories by the hearth, and children drift to sleep with the gentle cadence of oral tradition filling their minds. In these quiet hours, one can sense the continuity of culture, the endurance of values, and the intimate connection between humans and their environment. Reflecting on Celtic society, we see a world of harmony and complexity. It is a world where work and play, craft and beauty, ritual and routine intertwine seamlessly. Each day is framed by the cycles of nature, each object imbued with care and meaning, and each story carrying the weight of memory. As you drift further into this gentle narrative, let your mind absorb the quiet richness of Celtic life, the delicate textures of forests, rivers, and hearths, and the soft rhythms that shaped a remarkable people. In this calm and contemplative state, we are ready to move toward the next chapter, where the Celts encounter the wider Mediterranean world, engage with expanding empires, and leave enduring legacies that ripple across history. Let your thoughts float gently with the currents of rivers, the sway of forests, and the patterns of wind across open fields, carrying you softly into the next unfolding of time. As we continue our journey, picture the Celtic tribes standing at the edges of Europe, gazing toward the distant Mediterranean. The landscape shifts from the green rolling hills of Gaul to sun-baked plains and distant mountain ranges. By the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, Celtic communities begin to encounter Mediterranean peoples. The Greeks along the Adriatic coast, the Etruscans in Italy, and eventually the Romans. These encounters shape trade, warfare, art, and cultural exchange, while also introducing new challenges and opportunities. In southern Gaul and northern Italy, Celtic tribes establish footholds near rivers and fertile plains. Towns and hill forts flourish, facilitating trade and communication. Imagine bustling settlements along the Po Valley, where artisans craft bronze vessels in Latin style, their smooth curves and intricate spirals reflecting the flow of rivers and the rhythm of forests. Markets are alive with the exchange of goods. Wine from the Mediterranean, metals from the Alps, amber from the north, and local pottery shaped with skill and care. Some Celtic groups move even further south, forming the Giseti and other tribes that reach the Italian peninsula. These warriors leave a vivid imprint on Mediterranean history through both trade and conflict. Picture a small force of Celtic warriors moving cautiously through olive groves and sunlit hills, their shields catching sunlight as they navigate foreign lands. Though often at odds with local powers, they also absorb knowledge, art, and techniques, blending them with their own traditions. Greek colonies along the Adriatic offer yet another point of contact. Coastal trading posts teem with ships, amphorae, and merchants speaking unfamiliar tongues. Celtic traders and travelers adapt to these settings, exchanging goods, ideas, and stories. Through these interactions, they learn Mediterranean techniques in metalworking, coinage, and architecture, while still retaining their own Latin aesthetic. The fusion of styles produces objects that are both practical and mesmerizingly intricate. Torques shaped in Mediterranean forms but adorned with Celtic spirals, or swords with inlaid patterns inspired by distant lands. Religion and spirituality are influenced subtly by these contacts. While the Celts maintain their druidic traditions, they begin to encounter foreign deities, sacred spaces, and ritual practices. The Celts' reverence for rivers, groves, and springs remains central, yet the exchange of ideas introduces new perspectives on worship, ritual, and symbolism. Festivals continue to mark the cycles of the year, with fire, water, and music forming the backdrop for celebration and reflection. In these centuries, the Celts of Gaul also experienced the gradual rise of Roman power. Rome, expanding from the Italian peninsula, comes into contact with Celtic tribes along the Adriatic and beyond. Initial encounters are a mixture of trade, diplomacy, and occasional conflict. Roman coins, pottery, and weapons begin to appear in Celtic settlements, while Celtic artifacts travel southward, leaving traces of their artistry in the Mediterranean world. Imagine a hill fort overlooking a river, its inhabitants observing distant banners, curious but cautious as emissaries and merchants bring news of the growing republic. Celtic military organization adapts to these new dynamics. While maintaining traditional warrior training, tribes also adopt siege techniques, cavalry strategies, and equipment influenced by Mediterranean practices. Warbands may ride light, swift horses, equipped with spears, shields, and carefully forged swords. Battles are both physical and psychological, with tactics, formation, and morale shaping outcomes as much as individual valor. Through oral tradition, these encounters, both victorious and challenging, are remembered and retold, ensuring lessons endure. Trade and daily life continue with remarkable resilience despite these shifts. Villages along rivers thrive, producing grains, wool, and crafted goods for local use and distant markets. Artisans continue to hammer, carve, and weave, creating items that balance utility with beauty. Imagine the scent of wood smoke mingling with the aroma of freshly baked bread, as families work together to sustain both body and spirit. Life, though influenced by the wider world, remains grounded in the rhythms of nature and community. Celtic art reflects this period of contact and adaptation. Torques and bracelets display techniques inspired by Mediterranean craftsmanship, yet their swirling Latin patterns evoke forests, rivers, and the cycles of life. Shields and swords may bear inlaid designs that merge styles, reflecting both local identity and international awareness. This artistic syncretism demonstrates the Celts' ability to absorb, adapt, and innovate, preserving a distinct cultural voice even amid external influence. As these centuries progress, the Celts confront the rise of Rome with increasing inevitability. Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, beginning in 58 BCE, bring dramatic change. Imagine vast armies moving across river valleys, banners fluttering in the wind, and the distant thunder of marching soldiers. Celtic communities face difficult choices: resistance, negotiation, or accommodation. Leaders emerge to unify tribes, while druids continue to offer guidance, maintaining spiritual cohesion amidst political turmoil. Despite conflict, cultural continuity persists. Rituals, storytelling, and daily routines remain central to Celtic life. Festivals continue to mark the passage of the year, songs preserve ancestral memory, and artisan traditions flourish. Families tend their fields, children learn crafts, and warriors train in preparation for both defense and ceremonial display. Even as empires rise and fall around them, the Celts maintain a rhythm rooted in land, lineage, and imagination. The psychological landscape of the Celts during this era is subtle yet profound. The intrusion of foreign powers, the allure of distant lands, and the movement of ideas encourage adaptability. Communities find ways to integrate external influences without losing identity, blending innovation with tradition. This capacity for balance and resilience defines much of the Celtic legacy, echoing in art, language, and social organization long after the immediate conflicts fade. Daily life remains richly textured. Imagine a craftsman seated in the fading light of evening, hammering bronze into a torque while listening to a bard recount tales of past heroes. Children play nearby, absorbing stories, learning practical skills, and observing the world around them. Hearths glow softly, smoke curling toward the roof beams, while the wind whispers through nearby groves. These moments, simple yet profound, form the undercurrent of Celtic continuity, connecting generations across time and space. Language continues to unify communities. Oral tradition remains the primary conduit for history, law, and knowledge. Druids and bards preserve complex genealogies, philosophical ideas, and spiritual teachings. The spoken word is melodic, carefully measured, and often accompanied by music. Through language, values of bravery, wisdom, and respect for the natural world are transmitted, forming an invisible web that binds disparate communities together. Trade remains central to cultural resilience. River routes, roads, and coastal pathways facilitate the movement of goods and ideas. Markets buzz with interaction as local crafts mingle with Mediterranean imports, fine ceramics, wine, and coinage. Each object, whether a simple tool or an elaborately decorated torque, carries meaning, reflecting both utility and cultural identity. These networks allow Celtic communities to thrive even as political landscapes shift around them. As twilight falls over Celtic lands, imagine the soft glow of fires illuminating hill forts and villages. Smoke rises gently, mingling with the scent of evening air, and families gather to share meals, music, and stories. Bards recount recent events, heroic tales, and the wisdom of ancestors. Druids observe the stars, noting their positions and offering quiet guidance. The world is complex, influenced by distant powers, yet grounded in enduring rhythms of life, art, and spirituality. Reflecting on this chapter, we see the Celts not as passive recipients of change but as active participants in a dynamic European landscape. They adapt, innovate, and preserve, blending local tradition with foreign influence. Art, ritual, and daily life create continuity, while trade, language, and mobility connect them to a wider world. In this gentle contemplation, allow your mind to drift through forests, along rivers, and across the sunlit hills of Gaul and Italy, absorbing the textures, rhythms, and subtle beauty of Celtic life during this era. As we prepare to move into the next chapter, envision the quiet resilience of these communities, the intricate patterns of Latin art, the melodic cadence of language, and the steady pulse of daily life. Let the gentle unfolding of time guide your thoughts, carrying you deeper into the story of the Celts as they face new challenges, create enduring legacies, and leave traces of their culture that will resonate for centuries to come. As we drift further into the centuries of Celtic history, picture a landscape where rolling hills and dense forests meet rivers flowing toward distant seas. It is a time of both challenge and continuity. The rise of Rome brings new pressures, yet Celtic communities exhibit remarkable resilience, adapting to changing circumstances while preserving core aspects of their identity. This chapter explores their resistance, integration, and the subtle legacies that survive in art, language, and culture. By the 1st century BCE, Roman expansion into Gaul and the British Isles accelerates. Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, chronicled in his own writings, reveal both the military might of Rome and the strategic organization of Celtic tribes. Imagine a Celtic warrior standing on a hilltop, shield gleaming in the morning light, surveying the distant columns of Roman soldiers advancing across the valley. Despite the formidable opponent, Celtic leaders organize alliances, fortify hill forts, and prepare for both confrontation and negotiation. Hill forts serve as centers of defense, governance, and community life. Constructed from timber, earth, and stone, these fortifications offer shelter and strategic advantage. Families, livestock, and artisans gather within these walls during periods of conflict, their lives continuing amid the tension of potential raids or sieges. The rhythmic sound of hammering metal, the chatter of children, and the smell of cooking fires persist, creating continuity in the face of uncertainty. Celtic military tactics are diverse and adaptive. Warbands use knowledge of local terrain, employing ambushes in forests and swift cavalry charges across open plains. Spears, swords, and shields are wielded with both precision and artistry, the blades often decorated with the familiar swirling patterns of Latin design. Even in battle, aesthetic and symbolic expression remains intertwined with functionality, reflecting a worldview in which beauty and purpose are inseparable. Resistance is not solely physical. Leaders, druids, and communities employ diplomacy, strategic alliances, and negotiation to navigate Roman encroachment. Some tribes seek accommodation, trading goods and knowledge, while others fiercely defend their autonomy. Oral tradition ensures that both victories and losses are remembered, shaping collective identity and teaching lessons in courage, strategy, and resilience. Picture a druid addressing a council of tribal elders beneath ancient oaks, offering counsel that balances pragmatism, spiritual guidance, and historical memory. Despite conflict, Celtic life continues with remarkable stability. Daily routines in villages and towns retain their familiar rhythms. Women tend fields, churn butter, weave cloth, and nurture children. Men cultivate crops, tend livestock, and practice crafts. Music, storytelling, and ritual persist, forming a comforting continuity that bridges generations. Seasonal festivals mark cycles of sowing, harvest, and reflection, reminding communities of enduring patterns that transcend immediate turmoil. Art and craftsmanship flourish even amid change. Blacksmiths forge tools and weapons, artisans shape pottery, and jewelers create torques and bracelets with intricate Latin patterns. These objects carry meaning, signaling status, identity, and spiritual connection. Decorative motifs echo the flow of rivers, the curl of fern fronds, and the spiraling patterns of life itself. Even when Roman influence introduces new forms or techniques, Celtic artisans adapt gracefully, blending styles while maintaining a distinct cultural voice. Language remains a vital conduit of identity. Celtic tongues, both Goidelic and Brythonic branches, continue to transmit law, philosophy, and history. Bards and druids preserve genealogies, heroic tales, and spiritual teachings through oral performance. Imagine a bard traveling along river valleys, voice rising and falling with melodic cadence, recounting adventures of gods and warriors, weaving instruction, memory, and entertainment into a seamless tapestry of sound. Through these performances, communities maintain connection to past, present, and future. Religion retains central importance. Druids continue to guide ritual practice, observing seasonal cycles and natural phenomena. Sacred groves, rivers, springs, and hilltops remain focal points for offerings and reflection. Even as Roman deities gain influence in some areas, local traditions persist, blending subtly with new forms. Picture a quiet grove at dawn, mist rising from the earth, as a druid offers libation to the spirits of land and water. These rituals sustain a sense of harmony, providing spiritual continuity amid political and social upheaval. Trade and economic life adapt to new realities. Rivers, roads, and coastal routes facilitate exchange with Roman settlements, while local goods continue to circulate within Celtic networks. Grain, livestock, textiles, and crafted objects travel alongside Roman imports of pottery, wine, and coinage. Markets hum with interaction, negotiation, and social exchange. These networks allow communities to maintain vitality even as the surrounding political landscape shifts. Education remains experiential and oral. Young people learn practical skills through apprenticeship, observing elders and participating in ritual and daily labor. They memorize stories, genealogies, and legal principles, acquiring wisdom and cultural identity in a seamless process. The spoken word, often accompanied by music or gesture, ensures that knowledge passes intact across generations. Storytelling becomes both entertainment and moral compass, teaching values of bravery, generosity, and respect for nature. The Celtic encounter with Rome introduces both challenge and opportunity. While military campaigns result in territorial loss for some tribes, other communities integrate aspects of Roman organization, technology, and culture. Towns adopt Roman architectural features, coinage facilitates trade, and certain crafts benefit from new techniques. Yet even in integration, core Celtic elements, art, language, ritual, and social structure, persist, illustrating adaptability without cultural erasure. Visualize a Celtic town at dusk during this era. Timber and stone homes clustered near a river, the soft glow of hearth fires reflecting on cobblestones. Blacksmiths finish their work, children play quietly in alleys, and bards prepare for evening storytelling. The community continues its life rhythm, anchored by tradition even as new influences filter in. Music, laughter, and the smell of cooking sustain a sense of stability and comfort, a reminder that culture endures in the lived experience of daily life. Celtic identity is reinforced through art, ritual, and social cohesion. Festivals punctuate the year, marking planting, harvest, and reflection. Songs preserve heroic deeds and spiritual lessons. Craftsmanship embodies both beauty and utility. Even under external pressures, these elements form a resilient cultural fabric, linking past to present, and ensuring continuity across generations. The legacy of this period extends beyond immediate survival. Celtic influence on Romanized regions includes artistic styles, language traces, and settlement patterns. Latin motifs appear in metalwork across Europe, inspiring future generations. Oral tradition, once the primary record, leaves echoes in myths, place names, and storytelling that survive centuries later. The intertwining of resistance, adaptation, and integration defines the enduring character of the Celtic people. As night falls over Celtic lands, imagine the soft patter of evening rain on rooftops, the gentle rustle of trees in the wind, and the muted glow of fires in hill forts and villages. Families gather to eat, speak quietly, and listen to bards recount tales that link them to ancestors long past. Druids observe the stars, noting subtle shifts in constellations and offering guidance. In these quiet hours, the textures of daily life, ritual, and communal connection create a tapestry of continuity and calm. Reflecting on this chapter, we see the Celts as a people of resilience, adaptability, and enduring cultural depth. They negotiate change without losing their essence, blending innovation with tradition. Art, language, ritual, and daily life continue to thrive, leaving legacies that echo across centuries. As you rest your mind, imagine the gentle rhythms of their villages, the flowing patterns of Latin artistry, and the soft cadence of songs and storytelling, carrying you forward into the next chapter of their story. In this tranquil contemplation, we prepare to explore the twilight of Celtic independence and the enduring impact of their culture on Europe. Let the soft imagery of forests, rivers, hill forts, and hearths guide you into rest, allowing the story of the Celts to unfold gently in your mind. As we arrive at the twilight of Celtic history, picture a landscape where forests and rivers meet rolling hills under a soft, fading light. The era of independent Celtic polities is gradually giving way to a new world shaped by Rome and emerging European powers. Yet even as political autonomy diminishes, the spirit of the Celts endures, woven into art, language, ritual, and memory. This chapter explores the subtle and profound legacies they leave behind, allowing us to drift gently through centuries of influence and inspiration. The collapse of independent Celtic kingdoms does not erase their presence. Across Gaul, Britain, Ireland, and Iberia, communities continue to speak Celtic languages, practice ancient rituals, and maintain artistic traditions. Hill forts and villages, though sometimes repurposed or abandoned, leave enduring marks on the landscape. Earthworks, ditches, and mounds stand as silent witnesses to centuries of habitation, their outlines visible against the horizon, evocative of lives lived in harmony with the land. Imagine walking along a riverbank, sunlight glinting on the water, the gentle hum of life around you, while traces of past settlements whisper through the soil. Language is among the most enduring elements of Celtic culture. Goidelic languages such as Irish, Scottish Gaelic, and Manx, and Brythonic languages such as Welsh, Cornish, and Breton, preserve ancestral memory, storytelling, and identity. Even as Latin spreads across Europe, Celtic tongues adapt and survive, carried by communities in both rural valleys and coastal regions. These languages continue to shape literature, folklore, and communal memory, linking modern speakers with ancestors who roamed forested hills, tended fields, and performed sacred rituals. Artistic traditions leave a subtle but lasting imprint. Latin motifs, with their spirals, triskeles, and flowing patterns, influence metalwork, stone carving, and decorative arts for centuries. Torques, bracelets, and engraved weapons inspire artisans long after the height of Celtic political power. Visual motifs echoing natural forms, leaves, waves, animals, serve as both aesthetic pleasure and symbolic connection to life, fertility, and the cycles of nature. Picture a simple brooch, polished bronze reflecting the soft light of a hearth, its etched spirals a quiet reminder of a rich cultural heritage. Celtic spirituality also continues to shape local traditions, often blending with Christianity as it spreads across Europe. Sacred wells, springs, and groves remain important, sometimes repurposed as Christian sites while retaining echoes of earlier veneration. Festivals such as Samhain, Beltane, and Imbolc evolve into new forms, yet retain traces of their original symbolism and seasonal significance. In villages and rural communities, rituals honoring land, fertility, and ancestors persist quietly, maintaining a continuity that spans centuries. Oral tradition remains central to the preservation of Celtic memory. Bards and storytellers pass down tales of heroes, gods, and epic journeys, weaving history, morality, and imagination into melodic narratives. Even as writing becomes more widespread, these oral traditions endure, influencing literature, folklore, and poetry across Europe. Imagine sitting by a fire as night falls, listening to a storyteller recount adventures of Cuchulainn or the magical deeds of Morrigan, the words drifting softly into your consciousness, connecting past and present. The Celtic approach to daily life, grounded in harmony with the land, communal values, and craftsmanship, leaves a quiet but profound legacy. Settlement patterns, agricultural techniques, and artisanal skills influence local economies and village structures long after the rise of empires. The rhythms of work, celebration, and ritual continue to shape how communities relate to their environment, sustaining a subtle sense of continuity that links generations. Fields tilled in gentle cycles, the tending of livestock, and the crafting of tools and art all bear traces of a culture attuned to the patterns of nature. Trade networks established by Celtic communities also endure in new forms. River routes and coastal paths that once carried amber, tin, and crafted objects now facilitate the exchange of a wider array of goods across emerging European territories. The interconnectedness cultivated over centuries fosters both economic resilience and cultural transmission, allowing elements of Celtic art, language and ritual to spread even beyond traditionally Celtic lands. Picture a quiet riverside marketplace, traders exchanging wares while stories and songs drift through the air, a living echo of centuries of exchange and connection. Even in warfare, the Celtic legacy persists in subtle ways. Military organization, strategic use of terrain, and the integration of cavalry and infantry inform regional tactics long after the political structures of the tribes themselves fade. Legendary heroes, remembered in oral and later written traditions, continue to inspire values of courage, skill, and honor. Through art, story, and memory, the ethos of the Celtic warrior endures, influencing societies far removed from the original hill forts and forests. As we reflect on the impact of Celtic culture, it is important to consider its influence on modern imagination. From myths and legends to art and literature, Celtic themes continue to captivate the human mind. The flowing spirals, the tales of heroic feats, and the reverence for nature resonate not only as historical artifacts but as enduring sources of inspiration. Imagine leaf-patterned carvings on stone monuments, flowing lines on a painted vessel, or a story of transformation told around a hearth, each element bridging centuries, each one a whisper of a world both distant and familiar. Celtic music, too, carries echoes of their enduring legacy. The lilting rhythms of flutes, lyres, and drums, once accompanying ritual and storytelling, continue to influence regional musical traditions. Melodies evoke landscapes, emotions, and communal memory, creating a sense of connection across time. Imagine the gentle flow of a Celtic tune drifting across a valley at dusk, carrying with it both history and the soothing cadence of daily life. Finally, the Celtic worldview, the intimate connection with nature, the celebration of cycles, and the blending of artistry, spirituality, and practicality, offers lessons that remain relevant today. Observing the changing seasons, honoring the environment, valuing community, and embedding beauty into everyday objects reflect a holistic approach to life. Even in modern contexts, these principles can inspire mindfulness, creativity, and a gentle attentiveness to the world around us. As night settles fully over the hills, forests, and rivers once inhabited by Celtic communities, imagine the quiet glow of fires in villages, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the soft murmur of water in streams. Families rest, children dream, and the songs of bards linger in memory. Across centuries, the patterns of Celtic life, art, ritual, language, and daily rhythms continue to resonate, creating a tapestry of enduring influence. In this calm reflection, allow your mind to absorb the textures and rhythms of Celtic culture. The soft spirals of Latin art, the gentle cadence of oral storytelling, the quiet strength of communities living in harmony with their environment, all these elements flow into a subtle meditation, guiding you toward rest. The Celts, though their kingdoms and warriors have passed, leave behind a legacy that continues to hum quietly in landscapes, stories, and imagination. As you drift towards sleep, picture the rolling hills and serene rivers, the hill forts bathed in twilight, the smoke curling from hearths, and the melodic whispers of songs carried on the evening breeze. In these gentle images, the story of the Celts lingers, a calm, enduring presence, softly fading into the quiet night. As we drift into the long shadow of history, imagine the landscapes once inhabited by the Celts stretching endlessly beneath a soft, golden light. Rolling hills, dense forests, and winding rivers bear silent testimony to centuries of human life, culture, and imagination. Though the era of independent Celtic kingdoms has faded into memory, the spirit of the Celts continues to reverberate across time, echoing in myth, art, language, and modern imagination. This chapter explores these subtle, enduring echoes, allowing your mind to glide gently through centuries, absorbing the calm rhythm of cultural memory. The Celt stories survive in the oral tradition, long before they are written down. Across Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Brittany, and beyond, bards and storytellers carry tales of gods, heroes, and magical creatures. These stories are not merely entertainment, they encode morality, history, and cosmology. Picture a bard seated by a fire, voice rising and falling with deliberate cadence, recounting the exploits of Cuchulainn, the champion of Ulster. Children listen wide-eyed, absorbing lessons of courage, honor, and cunning, while adults reflect on ancestral wisdom. Through repetition, melody, and memory, the stories endure, bridging generations and geographies. Irish mythology, with its rich pantheon of deities and heroes, preserves many elements of Celtic belief and worldview. The Tuatha Dé Danann, often described as a people of skill, wisdom, and magic, embody qualities admired in Celtic society: craftsmanship, strategy, and connection with nature. Imagine the soft glow of dawn illuminating a misty valley as the Tuatha Dé Danann moves silently among sacred groves and rivers. Their presence, mythic yet palpable, reflects a culture that intertwines human experience with the sacred and the natural world. Similarly, Welsh myth preserves the essence of Celtic culture. The Mabinogion, a collection of medieval stories, contains cycles of magic, heroism, and transformation. Heroes, kings, and shape-shifting beings inhabit forests, lakes, and mountains, echoing the landscapes once roamed by Celtic tribes. These stories, passed orally for centuries, encapsulate both the imagination and the values of the people, preserving cultural memory in rhythm and narrative. Imagine a quiet night by a stream, where the soft sounds of water and wind create the perfect backdrop for tales that teach, inspire, and soothe. Celtic art continues to influence Europe and beyond. The flowing curves, spirals, and triskelions of Latin design appear in medieval manuscripts, jewelry, and decorative arts. From intricately illuminated gospel books to metalwork in castles and churches, the aesthetic language of the Celts leaves its mark. Picture a scribe, quill in hand, tracing interlaced patterns across vellum, the spirals echoing rivers, ferns, and life itself. This artistic legacy demonstrates how visual motifs can transcend their original context, carrying cultural resonance across time. Language itself preserves the Celtic echo. Goidelic and Brythonic languages endure in daily life, literature, and place names. From the rolling hills of Ireland to the coasts of Brittany, words in these languages describe landscapes, flora, fauna, and social relationships, embedding memory in speech. Hearing a place name such as Duan Laegair, or Aberystwyth, invokes centuries of human habitation, story, and cultural continuity. Each syllable carries history, subtle reminders of a world shaped by Celtic imagination and experience. The natural world remains central to the Celtic legacy. Reverence for rivers, hills, forests, and sacred springs informs environmental consciousness and cultural practice. Folklore often emphasizes the presence of spirits or guardians within the landscape, a subtle echo of ancient druidic thought. Picture wandering through a dense forest, sunlight filtering through leaves, the quiet rustle of wildlife, and a sense of connection to all that lives. In this moment, the Celtic ethos of attentiveness to the environment and the interconnection of life is felt deeply and intuitively. Even in music, echoes of the Celts persist. Traditional instruments such as the harp, flute, and bodhrán carry melodies that evoke landscapes, emotion, and memory. Tunes are passed down through generations, sometimes altered, sometimes preserved precisely. Imagine a gentle evening in a village by the river, a soft tune drifting through the air, connecting listener and performer, past and present. Music becomes a vessel of cultural memory, preserving both rhythm and resonance, providing calm, continuity, and a sense of belonging. Festivals, too, preserve Celtic legacy in subtle forms. Samhain evolves into All Hallows traditions, Beltane continues as May Day celebrations, and Imbolc retains traces in seasonal rituals. Even as Christianity spreads, these festivals incorporate elements of the natural cycle and ancestral remembrance. Communities gather to mark transitions of the year, to honor life and renewal, and to share stories and food. In each celebration, the cadence of the past persists, quietly influencing modern practices and seasonal awareness. Celtic influence extends into literature and art beyond Europe. Romantic writers of the 18th and 19th centuries draw inspiration from myths, landscapes, and heroism. Modern fantasy literature often borrows Celtic motifs: magical beings, enchanted forests, heroic quests, and flowing symbolic patterns, preserving cultural memory and imaginative reinterpretation. Picture turning a page, the words evoking rivers, hills, and heroes of long ago, your mind tracing the patterns of myth and culture, connecting centuries with each line. Place names also preserve memory. Towns, rivers, and hills across Europe retain Celtic roots in their nomenclature. Even as populations and empires change, these linguistic echoes map the historical presence of the Celts onto the modern world. Walking through these landscapes, one can sense layers of history, the quiet persistence of culture, and the subtle shaping of identity across generations. Imagine a misty morning in Brittany, the river flowing steadily, the hills whispering of people who lived, loved, and worked upon the land long before the present day. In addition, Celtic craftsmanship inspires modern artisans. Jewelry, textiles, and decorative objects draw on Latin motifs and symbolic forms. Spirals, knots, and interlaced patterns are reimagined in contemporary contexts, yet retain a connection to ancestral aesthetics. Picture a modern workshop, a craftsman tracing delicate spirals in silver or weaving intricate patterns in fabric, the echoes of centuries of artistry flowing through each deliberate motion. Each creation becomes a bridge between past and present, functional yet resonant with historical memory. The spiritual and philosophical dimensions of Celtic culture continue to resonate subtly in contemporary thought. Reverence for nature, attentiveness to the cycles of life, and the integration of beauty, utility, and community in daily practices provide lessons in mindfulness and holistic living. Imagine pausing in a quiet meadow, the wind moving through grasses, birds singing in the distance, and a gentle awareness of being part of a larger whole. In these moments, the Celtic worldview, interconnected, reflective, and observant, finds its modern echo. Modern storytelling, from novels to cinema, often draws upon Celtic themes. Tales of heroic quests, transformation, and enchanted landscapes trace their roots to ancient myths. Imagine a film scene, a misty forest, a hero facing moral choices, the air carrying whispers of ancient magic. Even when reimagined for contemporary audiences, the core ideas, honor, courage, reverence for the natural world, and the interweaving of human and supernatural realms, reflect the enduring imprint of Celtic imagination. Archaeology continues to uncover the tangible traces of the Celts, from hill forts and settlements to metalwork, jewelry, and ritual sites. Each excavation provides a quiet window into daily life, art, and belief systems, allowing us to reconstruct the textures and rhythms of a long-gone world. Picture walking slowly through an archaeological site, the earth revealing fragments of the past. A bronze torque here, the base of a timber structure there, the faint outline of a defensive ditch, all whispering stories of life, labor, and creativity. Through reflection, the Celtic legacy emerges as both subtle and profound. It is not always visible in grand monuments, but in enduring rhythms, motifs, language, and worldview. It is in the spiral etched into a piece of jewelry, the cadence of an oral tale, the celebration of seasonal change, and the attentiveness to the natural environment. These echoes shape our perception of history and identity, providing both calm and inspiration as we contemplate human continuity across time. As night descends over the imagined Celtic landscapes, envision the glow of fires in distant villages, the quiet murmur of rivers, the soft rustle of leaves, and the distant call of night birds. Families rest, stories linger in the mind, and music flows faintly through the air. Across centuries, the threads of Celtic life, art, language, ritual, and imagination continue to ripple quietly through the world. Allow your mind to drift gently with these echoes. Picture the hill forts bathed in moonlight, the swirling patterns of Latin art, the whispered stories of bards, and the calm presence of rivers and forests. Each element flows into a serene meditation on continuity, memory, and the subtle resonance of a culture that, though ancient, continues to shape landscapes, hearts, and minds. In this final contemplation, the story of the Celts settles softly, like mist over hills, like music carried on a gentle breeze, like the calm reflection of stars in a still lake. Let these images carry you into rest, carrying the rhythms, beauty, and wisdom of the Celtic world into your dreams, where time folds gently and memory drifts like leaves along a quiet stream. As we continue drifting through the story of the Celts, picture a landscape where forests, rivers, and hills meet under soft morning light. This chapter invites us to linger in the deeper layers of Celtic culture, art, mythology, and spirituality that resonate across time. These elements form a rich tapestry that connects daily life, communal identity, and the imagination, allowing us to glide gently through centuries of human experience. Celtic art is a flowing reflection of life itself. From the spirals of Latin metalwork to intricately carved stones, each design embodies motion, energy, and connection. Imagine a craftsman sitting by the river, his hands steady as he hammers bronze into a torque, the soft curve of the metal echoing the flowing water nearby. Every line is deliberate, a balance of utility, aesthetic expression, and symbolic meaning. Patterns often mimic nature, swirling waves, curling vines, and the graceful forms of animals, reminding observers that art is a reflection of life in all its interconnectedness. Jewelry, weapons, and household objects carry both beauty and significance. Torques, bracelets, and brooches indicate status, identity, or ritual function, while swords and shields are not merely practical but also adorned with symbolic motifs. Picture a warrior adjusting a torque before a ceremonial feast, its spirals catching the flicker of firelight, connecting him to both his ancestors and the natural world. Each object carries stories, skill, and meaning, intertwining the personal, social, and spiritual dimensions of life. Stone carvings and monumental works echo similar values. Standing stones, tomb markers, and hill fort boundaries are often decorated with spirals, knots, or animal forms. Imagine walking through a misty valley, the outline of a carved stone rising gently from the ground, its intricate patterns softened by moss and lichen. These stones mark sacred or communal spaces, reminding all who pass that life, memory, and the spiritual realm are intertwined with the landscape. Celtic mythology offers a bridge between the tangible and the imaginative. Gods, heroes, and magical beings populate forests, rivers, and hills, embodying human virtues, natural forces, and cosmic patterns. In Ireland, the tales of the Tuatha Dé Danann portray a people of skill, wisdom, and magic, each story layered with lessons on bravery, strategy, and connection to nature. Imagine the Tuatha Dé Danann moving through a dawn-lit valley, their presence silent yet powerful, reminding observers of the intertwining of human experience with the spiritual and natural worlds. Welsh myth preserves parallel narratives. The Mabinogion recounts stories of transformation, heroism, and enchantment, where forests conceal secrets and rivers carry messages from the otherworld. Heroes and magical beings inhabit landscapes that mirror real places, connecting the physical world with spiritual and symbolic dimensions. Imagine a quiet river at dusk, the soft gurgle of water accompanying a tale of metamorphosis, courage, or wisdom. Through these stories, communities maintain continuity, transmitting values, imagination, and identity across generations. Celtic spiritual practice is closely tied to the land. Druids, as guides and custodians of knowledge, oversee rituals in groves, by rivers, and atop hills. They observe seasonal cycles, astronomical patterns, and natural phenomena to maintain harmony between humans and the environment. Picture a druid at dawn, water shimmering in a bronze bowl, the mist rising gently around ancient oaks. Offerings of food, drink, or crafted objects honor the spirits of land and water, reinforcing the bond between people, nature, and the unseen world. Seasonal festivals punctuate Celtic spiritual life. Samhain, the transition from harvest to winter, emphasizes reflection, ancestral remembrance, and preparation. Beltane, welcoming summer, celebrates fertility, fire, and abundance. Imbolc marks the first stirrings of spring, signaling renewal, while Lugnasad honors craft, skill, and the harvest. Imagine a village gathering, fires burning softly in the evening, music and dance flowing in rhythm with the cycles of nature. These celebrations create communal cohesion, reinforcing both social and spiritual identity. Music and oral tradition amplify spiritual and cultural continuity. Bards recount genealogies, heroic exploits, and cosmological tales, often accompanied by lyres, flutes, or percussion. Imagine a bard's voice rising over a calm valley at dusk, weaving together history, morality, and enchantment. Through melody, rhythm, and story, knowledge is preserved and transmitted, ensuring that each generation inherits both wisdom and imagination. The gentle cadence of these narratives soothes listeners, reinforcing memory while guiding the heart toward contemplation. Ritual objects and sacred spaces reflect the integration of art, mythology, and spirituality. Carved stones, bronze vessels, and engraved weapons often carry symbolic meaning. Sacred groves, springs, and hilltops provide locations for reflection, ceremony, and communal gathering. Each space and object embodies cultural memory, creating a physical and symbolic network that binds people to their land, ancestors, and spiritual beliefs. Imagine a quiet morning in a sacred grove, sunlight filtering through leaves, the soft hum of ritual energy lingering in the air, creating a sense of calm and connection. Celtic cosmology emphasizes the cyclical nature of life and the interconnection of all beings. Time is not linear but flowing, marked by seasons, harvests, and celestial movements. Life, death, and rebirth are mirrored in nature, in human experience, and in myth. Imagine walking through a forest at twilight, the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls blending with your thoughts, reminding you of the constant rhythm of change and continuity. In this gentle awareness, the Celtic worldview emerges as both meditative and deeply harmonious. Craftsmanship reflects these values. Artisans imbue functional objects with aesthetic and symbolic depth. Imagine spinning wool by the hearth, weaving patterns that echo river currents or the spirals of leaves. Metalworkers hammer copper and bronze into intricate designs, each line and curve carrying intention and meaning. Pottery, weaving, and woodwork all serve as vehicles for expression, demonstrating that even everyday life is suffused with attention, beauty, and spiritual resonance. Trade and interaction with other cultures further enrich Celtic expression. Mediterranean contacts bring new techniques and materials, yet Celts integrate these influences seamlessly into existing aesthetic and spiritual frameworks. Picture a craftsman in a bustling riverside settlement, blending local styles with imported materials, producing objects that are simultaneously practical, beautiful, and symbolically meaningful. This adaptive creativity ensures cultural vitality while maintaining continuity with ancestral forms. Celtic symbols, particularly spirals, triskels, and knots, convey philosophical and spiritual ideas. Spirals suggest growth, movement, and the cyclical nature of existence. Knots reflect interconnectedness, both among humans and between humans and nature. Imagine tracing a carved spiral with your fingertips, the curve flowing endlessly, a gentle meditation on time, life, and connection. These designs resonate not only visually but emotionally, reinforcing harmony, mindfulness, and reflection. Even in death, Celtic practices reflect reverence for continuity. Burial mounds, ceremonial sites, and ritual deposits preserve respect for ancestors and the cycles of life. Imagine a quiet hilltop, the sun setting behind distant forests, a burial mound outlined in soft light. Objects interred alongside the deceased, a torque, a painted bowl, a carved stone, carry symbolic meaning and honor lineage. These practices reinforce the continuity of memory, identity, and cultural values, even as the living world evolves. Celtic influence extends into modern imagination, from literature to visual art, from music to spiritual practice. Contemporary artists, writers, and musicians draw inspiration from spirals, myths, and melodies, preserving echoes of ancient creativity. Imagine a modern studio, sunlight streaming through a window, an artisan tracing patterns inspired by Latin motifs, the rhythm of the hand echoing centuries of tradition. Music, storytelling, and visual art continue this lineage, blending past and present in calm, contemplative practice. The holistic approach of the Celts, integrating art, myth, spirituality, and daily life, offers lessons for reflection and mindfulness today. Attentiveness to environment, care in craftsmanship, and engagement with ritual cycles provide a gentle framework for living consciously. Picture a quiet walk through a forest or along a riverbank, observing the textures, sounds and patterns of the natural world. In these moments, the principles of Celtic life, balance, continuity, and reverence, resonate subtly, guiding awareness and nurturing calm. As night settles across hills, rivers, and forests once home to Celtic communities, imagine fires glowing softly in distant villages, music drifting through the air, and the faint hum of life continuing its timeless rhythm. Stories, art, and ritual persist quietly, weaving a tapestry of cultural memory that transcends centuries. Through these echoes, the Celts continue to shape landscapes, imagination, and human consciousness. Allow your mind to drift with the patterns of spirals, the cadence of mythic tales, the rhythm of music, and the calm reflection of sacred spaces. Let the imagery of crafted objects, forests, rivers, and ritual spaces carry you gently toward rest. The story of Celtic art, myth, and spirituality settles like soft mist over rolling hills, a serene presence guiding the mind into quiet reflection and sleep.